A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. Brussels, in a decisive move reflecting its unwavering support for Ukraine, the European Union has authorized a new set of sanctions against Russia, intensifying pressure on the Kremlin to cease its aggression in the ongoing conflict. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas announced these measures on Friday, stating, "The message is clear. Europe will not relent in its support for Ukraine. The EU intends to continue increasing pressure until Russia halts its aggression." This latest sanctions package is touted as one of the most powerful the EU has ever imposed on Russia since the conflict began 4 years ago. Among the key components of this sanctions package is a significant reduction in the cap on Russian oil prices, dropping from $60 to $45 per barrel. This strategic move aims to undermine Russia's substantial energy revenues, which are crucial for financing its military operations. The European Commission, the EU's executive branch, proposed this adjustment in hopes of garnering support from major international powers within the Group of Seven, G7 nations. However, geopolitical tensions in the Middle East have complicated these efforts, leading to increased oil prices that have hampered the implementation of the price cap. In 2023, Ukraine's Western allies had already limited Russian oil sales to $60 per barrel, but this cap was largely symbolic, as most of Moscow's crude was selling for less than that threshold. The cap was designed as a safeguard in case oil prices surged. Oil revenue is the backbone of the Russian economy, enabling President Vladimir Putin to fund military expenditures without exacerbating inflation or triggering a currency crisis for the general populace. Additionally, the EU has taken steps to prohibit transactions involving the Nord Stream gas pipelines, which were designed to transport Russian natural gas to Germany. This prohibition is aimed at preventing Putin from generating any future revenue from these pipelines and discouraging potential investors from engaging with them. Notably, the Nord Stream pipelines have been out of operation since they were targeted by sabotage in 2022, with the origins of the underwater explosions remaining a source of international intrigue. The sanctions package also expands its reach into Russia's banking sector, further limiting the Kremlin's ability to raise funds and conduct financial transactions. This time, 2 Chinese banks have been added to the sanctions list, highlighting the EU's commitment to curtailing any financial avenues that could support Russia's war efforts. Since the onset of the conflict on February 24, 2022, the EU has implemented multiple rounds of sanctions against Russia, affecting over 2,400 officials and entities, including government agencies, banks, and corporations, through asset freezes and travel bans. However, the consensus on sanctions has become increasingly challenging to achieve, as the measures increasingly impact the economies of the EU's 27 member states. For instance, Slovakia recently delayed the latest sanctions package due to concerns over proposals to halt Russian gas supplies, which the country heavily relies on. The most recent sanctions, imposed on May 20th, targeted nearly 200 vessels within Russia's shadow fleet of tankers that are believed to be circumventing existing sanctions. The latest measures announced on Friday have added more than 100 additional ships to this list, further tightening the noose around Russia's maritime operations. As the conflict in Ukraine continues, the EU's actions signal a steadfast commitment to supporting Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The new sanctions are a clear indication that Europe is prepared to escalate its economic and political pressure on Russia until it ceases its military actions. The situation remains fluid, and the international community watches closely as the EU and its allies navigate this complex geopolitical landscape, balancing their own economic interests with the imperative of supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.